What's going on, folks? Ted from Immersion here, and I wanted to do an Unearthed Arcana revisit on something that's kind of close to home at the moment. Sorry, my hair's doing a crazy thing. But I wanted to talk about the Theurgy, or however you want to pronounce it, Wizard. So this is actually, if you're unfamiliar, with a subclass that we received twice over, that was 3 times, twice, over 2 different Unearthed Arcanas. It seemed like it was on track to end up in Xanathar's Guide to Everything before it was ultimately cut in favor of the War Wizard being the only one to appear, and as per standard Wizards of the Coast kind of rules, it hasn't appeared in a document or in a Unearthed Arcana since, and because it's so far back, chances are it's gone forever and we're never going to see it again. But one of my players was actually looking at playing it, so I said, let's go back and take a look, and is it as broken as I remember it being? And if not, why didn't it end up? And if so, let's fix it in a future video. So, before we jump into the Theurgy Wizard, I just wanted to talk to you about the sponsor for today's video, Skillshare. Skillshare you've seen on YouTube, you've even seen it on this channel before. They're an online learning community where you can take a variety of courses to cover a variety of different things. From video editing, audio editing, we even talked about grilled cheese sandwiches in the last video. But basically, you can get all sorts of classes and use your time. Who knows what 2021 is going to bring. We're closing in, we're a year past the pandemic starting, so maybe this would be a great opportunity for you to use some of the time you have working from home or otherwise to learn a new skill or something like that. For example, I'm right here in the midst of my audio for Premiere, my video editing using Premiere Pro. That's what I use to edit these videos, and I basically have a completely functional knowledge of just how to do things. But honestly, in the beginning of this video, video editing with Premiere Pro for beginners, by Jordy, I think it's Vandeput. I just learned how to get Windows back. I know that sounds really basic, but if I accidentally click out and close something, I lost a panel forever and I didn't know how to find it, so I'd go back to an older saved version and use that. I know that's super basic, but anyway. So if you want to look into learning something from Skillshare for yourself, there's a link in the top video of this video description where the first 1,000 of my followers get a chance to try out Skillshare Pro, which is the awesome ad-free version of it, so you can really just focus on learning. This will be one of many future coming Skillshare videos over the next couple months, so if you miss out on the first 1,000, be sure to keep an eye for the future. Thank you again to Skillshare for sponsoring this video. So what I thought I would do first is jump over to the Wizards of the Coast website and show you the 2 times Theurgy Wizard appeared. First was in the August 1st, 2016 Unearthed Arcana called The Faithful, where we got the Pact of the Seeker Wizard, another one, or Warlock rather, which never appeared in a published source, and the Theurgy Wizard. This was then further refined down in the March 20th, 2017, called The Wizard Revisited, which was 2 options, the Theurgy Wizard and then the new one, the War Magic, which is the one we got in Xanathar's Guide. You'll notice here in this one it says we wanted to get playtest information. The concept of doing surveys on things was not something that always appeared. They started instilling that, so they brought basically Theurgy Wizard back. And then I have another window here where I basically have both of them. So I think they're pretty much identical, but the left side of the screen you're going to see is the original version, and the second side, or the right side of the screen, is the second version. I believe they're pretty much identical. But let's go through, and the purpose of this is to talk about, well, really just to look at it, bring it to the attention of folks who don't know about it, and then have a high-level discussion as to why we think it didn't end up published at any point. So what do you get for taking this subclass? At the beginning, level 2, you get Arcane Initiate. First off, you get Divine Inspiration, right? Pick a divine main from your deities list. Any domain exists, right? So we had a certain number at a time. We now have all the new ones that have come out in subsequent books. Pick a domain, any divine domain of your choice, okay? And they give you some options. They say Arcana, Knowledge, Light, whatever. But you can pick any domain from a given deity that you like. Then you get Arcane Initiate. Whenever you gain a wizard level, you can choose to replace one of the wizard spells you add to your spellbook with a cleric domain spell from your chosen domain. Right, so normally a wizard on every level up from 2 beyond, they get 2 spells automatically added to their spellbook. They're saying you can choose to replace one of those wizard spells with one from the cleric domain list, right? So that's that list of 10 associated with the domain we chose in Divine Inspiration. The spell must be of a level of spells which you have slots, right? So you can't at level 2 take a 5th level spell slot, but this also functions if you're beyond, level 9 when you get your 5th level spells. You can get, even if at level 11 or level 10, you maybe didn't take Divine Domain spells, you can go back and take them. So you're not like limited in between, levels 2 through 9. You can continue to do this after the fact. If you happen to add all 10 of those domain spells to your spellbook, you can subsequently opt to add any spell from the cleric spell list instead. The spell must be of a spell which you have spell slots. Other wizards cannot copy cleric spells from your spellbook into their own spellbooks. So what this is saying, obviously, once you add those 10 domain spells, you're now free to use the entire cleric spell list. Wizards who copy from your spellbook can't get those for free. So let's stop right here and see how we match up, right? So the updated version, they still basically choose a domain, replace one of the spells with a spell from the cleric domain spell. If you add all the domain spells, you can add any cleric spell. Any cleric spell you gain from this feature. Oh, they added some language, right? Any cleric spell you gain from this feature is considered a wizard spell for you, but other wizards can't copy it. Okay, so that's pretty much the same, just some clarifying language. Then we get Channel Arcana. Okay. So, you gain the ability to channel Arcana in one of two ways. You start with 2, Divine Arcana and Channel Divinity. And the Channel Divinity option granted at the second level of your chosen domain, right? So all clerics get Channel Divinity at level 2, and they get a Channel Divinity option of some kind. So you get Channel Arcana, Divine Arcana, or Channel Arcana, whatever the Channel Divinity is, okay? You employ that Channel Divinity option by using your Channel Arcana ability. Whenever you use Channel Arcana, you must choose which effect you create. When you finish a short or long rest, you get them back, similar to how a cleric gets Channel Divinity. Some of them have a saving throw. If they do, it uses your wizard spell save DC. Beginning at 6th level, you can use it twice between rests, and at 18th level 3 times. When you finish a short or long rest, you get all expended uses back. When you gain further uses of Channel Divinity, or when you gain further uses for Channel Divinity from your domain, you can employ them by using your Channel Arcana ability. So, that's a lot. So what that means is you're basically getting exactly copy-paste Cleric Channel Divinity. You're going to get it once at 2nd level, you're going to get it twice at 6th level, and 3 times at 18th level. They all come back on a short rest. That's exactly the same as a Cleric. And it also goes on to say that if you get further uses for Channel Divinity, right, because not all Cleric domains get additional Channel Divinity options when you level up. Some do, some don't, but what they're saying is if they do, you can employ them by using your Channel Arcana ability. Let's see if that's the same in the newer version. I believe it is. Use your Channel Arcana, you choose which feature, get it back on a short rest. Wizard DC, if you gain additional Channel Divinity options from your domain, you can employ them by using Channel Arcana. Okay. Channel Arcana Divine Arcana is as a bonus action, you speak a prayer, and the next spell you cast gets a +2 bonus to its attack roll or its saving throw DC. That is the same. So again, were this an attacking spell like a Firebolt or something like that, you use your Channel Arcana to get a +2 to that, or the much bigger, more useful option, add a +2 to the saving throw, whatever the case may be. Okay, so that's the same. We get both. So we can now either use our Channel Arcana to duplicate every Channel Divinity option of a cleric of the domain we choose, or just give us a +2 bonus to an attack roll or saving throw. All right, at 6th level, we get Arcane Acolyte. When you gain this, choose the 1st level ability of the cleric, the domain you chose. However, you do not gain any weapon or armor proficiencies from that domain, right? So every cleric also gets something at level 1. They usually also get bonus proficiencies in the form of either some kind of weapons or armor. So you get whatever the 1st level ability is of that, of that cleric now at 6th level. So far, we are a wizard with all of our wizard abilities. We have access to the cleric spell list potentially entirely, depending on how we go about this. We have access to their Channel Divinity at level 2 and any future Channel Divinity options we might get. We also now have access to their 1st level abilities on top of Divine Arcana, giving us a +2 to attack roll or spell save. At 10th level, you gain your chosen domain's 6th level benefits. Your faith and your understanding of magic allow you to delve into your god's secrets. So now at level 10, we have gained access to everything. At every level 10 Theurgy Wizard, we have gained access to everything that our cleric domain has gotten us so far. We've had access to all 10 domain spells. We've had access potentially to the entire cleric spell list. We have Channel Divinity at level 2. We have additional abilities from level 1, and then whatever the ability is from level 6. Now let's see what happens when we get to the 14th level ability, Arcane High Priest. You gain your domain's 17th level benefits. Your academic nature and understanding of magic and doctrine allow you to master this ability sooner than a cleric of your domain. Okay, so at level 14, we get whatever the ability is of the level 17 cleric. So, a couple of things to talk about. One, I still always have kind of found this sort of broken in a way, right? At level 14, I have all of the abilities of a level 17 cleric in a given domain. I still have ritual casting from a wizard, ritual casting from my spell book. I still have access to the entire wizard spell book, and I have access to the entire cleric list, plus the domain spells, which may not be on the wizard or the cleric domain list, depending on which I chose. I might get some funky other options, right? Tempest Domain comes to mind, where they get Destructive Wave, which is a paladin-only spell, typically. Now I have access to that as a cleric wizard. I have access to the Channel Divinity. So I will say one of the downsides is I honestly think it's a downside to get a cleric domain that gives you additional Channel Divinity options, because like usually you get Channel Divinity at level 2 and then you might get a new Channel Divinity at level 6. Well, that's cool because you'd get that immediately once you hit level 6 from the Channel Arcana, but you get their whatever their 6th level ability is at level 10 and whatever their 17th level ability is at level 14, but the language from Channel Divinity is whenever you get extra options, you just get those. So you're actually better off, if I'm reading that correctly, to choose one that doesn't get a later Channel Divinity option, one that just gets something else. So basically you are a flat-out cleric wizard, right? Like a wizard cleric, I guess. So the only reason I can imagine this didn't make it into a final published source is because it gives you all of the things. I mean, I would also, if they were going to publish this, I think it's only fair that you do it the other way around and you made the Arcana domain, which I guess is the closest analogy, the Arcana domain cleric, the closest analogy to a wizard cleric or cleric wizard. I don't think they're the same. They do get to add significantly more spells to their spell list auto-prepared than standard clerics do by getting a 6th, 7th, 8th, and 9th level spell from a cleric or from a wizard spell list. But you are basically, and I can't even contemplate, you could do some crazy stuff with this, right? Depending on how I mean, let's use Tempest Domain, right? That was an example that I used. So at level 14, you'd have the 17th level Tempest Domain ability, which is just, you have outside, you have a 30-foot fly speed, non-concentration, just permanent flight. You have their ability at level 10, which is a Channel Divinity option, which will allow you to maximize the damage you do with any thunder or lightning spells. You are going to have access to the entire wizard spell list as well as the cleric spell list, which means you're going to have significantly more lightning and thunder spell access that you can choose to just deal maximum damage. Chain Lightning comes to mind as an amazing example to just flat out deal maximum damage, which is it 5d10 or something like that, 6d10, something crazy like that, and you can just do that to all the targets, just max damage. Unless that would jump and it wouldn't count. But either way, you also have access to Lightning Bolt, which would be another one. Then you'd also get their ability to, when they're dealt damage. I'm sorry, no, that's their 2nd level ability, is the Channel Divinity. The 6th level ability is they can push people back when they deal like thunder or lightning damage. And then the 1st level ability is when you're hit, you can deal retributive damage to people. So those are all options that you'd have, which are all good options as a wizard, because that's going to give you more survivability by pushing people back, retributive damage, which doesn't use a spell slot in any way, like a Hellish Rebuke might. You'll have access to all of the different thunder and lightning options that clerics would have access to, And then again, at level 14, you'd have Concentrationless Flight as long as you were outside. This also gets interesting when you start diving. You could go really weird and be like an Arcana domain cleric, or use that as the domain you choose, which will give you weird double tapping options where you're kind of getting both, which is kind of funky. But I also think this greatly benefits from all of the new domains that have been released since this came out, right? An example would be, I think, Forge domain. Obviously, you wouldn't get access to the armor, but there are ways to do so where you can get crazy AC by being like a ridiculously survivable armored wizard. The Twilight domain or the Peace domain, both of those new ones would be really, really powerful, with also being a wizard at the same time. So yeah, upon reviewing these, I can see that it kind of is what I remembered. It's basically just giving a wizard access to all of the cleric things. The only thing they don't get access to is the armor proficiencies, armor or weapon proficiencies, which is kind of like, that's a lesser thing in the grand scheme of things. I mean, you could be a dwarf wizard, let's say, a mountain dwarf, and get access to light medium armor, and then you're pretty much the same thing. You're just a cleric with a slightly squishier, right, by not having as many hit points. But yeah, I don't know. I struggle with this because, like, on the face value, I think this automatically screams to me as OP, right? And off the top of my head, that this is just too much. But you are still limited by the spell slots, right? So you can't cast more spells than you normally could. You just have a more diverse spell list to choose from. You still have to have them in your spell book, right? It's not like the cleric where you have your entire spell list and every morning you pick what you get. To get those cleric spells, you have to get the entire cleric list, right? You need to have chosen all 10 of your domain spells, and then you can get it. But you still have to choose to get those as one of the spells you get via leveling up to add it to your spell book, and then from there you are still limited to preparing those 25, or like say you have a 20 intelligence at level 20, you can prepare a total of 25 spells, not including, you know, the higher level cleric abilities where you get to auto learn and auto prepare things. But let's say it is just that, 25 spells. That's 25 spells from the entire cleric list that you have. 25 spells from the entire wizard list of which you've learned. Mind you, it's not the entire list. It's just of the ones you've learned. So it's those of that the wizard list, the 10 cleric domain spells, and then whatever other cleric spells you were able to learn. I don't think it has any specific language saying you can copy spells from scrolls, like off the cleric list. It doesn't say that anywhere. Like if I found a scroll of Cure Wounds, and Cure Wounds isn't one of the domain spells, like it doesn't say that I could then copy that into my spell book. So in theory, the only way you can gain access to these spells is via level up. So you are hard limited in how many you could do. I guess you could take less wizard spells and learn them from scrolls. So that's kind of where I'm at, and I really want to hear your thoughts and opinions in the comments down below. Would you let somebody play Theurgy Wizard as it stands right now? Like, no changes, take this, copy it right into 5th edition, you know, into your homebrew campaign, and just let them go and play it? Or do you think that it's a good concept, but it could use some tweaking? And I genuinely don't know what I want to do, because in my gut, I say don't let them play it as it is, it's too much. Because in theory, if you were to choose a life domain cleric, you are an amazing healer with the damage dealing and versatility of a standard wizard. And I don't know if that's a good or a bad thing. It kind of makes, in some instances, people would say it would make cleric obsolete. And then again, if you happen to choose a race that gives you 1 additional hit point per level, you're pretty much a cleric in general. So I don't know. And if you think we should change it, leave your comments for what you would change in the comments, and then maybe I'll use those to make a future Fixing the Theurgy Wizard video, and we can work on that together. Thank you all so much for watching. Thank you to Skillshare again for sponsoring this video, and a big shout out to my patrons over on Patreon for continuing to sponsor me and the channel. Thank you all so much for watching, and I'll see you next time.